Chapter: The night Prophet Ibrahim was thrown into the fire, and it refused to burn. Picture this: a plaza packed with people, and it's already unbearably hot, not just from the sun, but from something they built themselves. Days of stacking wood and oil until the fire grew into a wall of flame so massive that no one could stand within 100 meters of it. Heat so intense it must have felt like the sky itself was burning. In the middle of that crowd, loaded onto a catapult because no human being could walk close enough to throw him in by hand, stands one man. He isn't screaming. He isn't begging. His eyes are steady, fixed on the flames about to swallow him whole. You know his name. You've heard it in 1,000 khutbahs, 1,000 school lessons. Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him. But almost nobody stops to actually picture it. What it feels like, physically, to stand 2 meters from a fire that size, knowing you're about to be thrown in, and to feel nothing. Not resignation, not despair. Something else entirely. I'm Ricow, and today we're crossing time to ancient Mesopotamia, to the exact moment the most powerful king of his era decided the only way to silence one young man's questions was to burn him alive in front of an entire city. What happened next isn't just a miracle you nod along to. It's a mechanism. And by the end of this, you'll understand exactly where that mechanism lives in you too. Here's the problem with how most of us have absorbed this story. We treat it like a fireworks show. Bad king, big flame, miracle, hero walks out unburnt, roll credits. It's satisfying the way a magic trick is satisfying. Impressive, but not really about you. So rewind and ask the question we always skip. Why was Ibrahim in that fire in the first place? Not for theft. Not for treason. His actual crime was taking an axe to his people's idols. Every one of them but the largest, on which he hung the axe itself. When the crowd demanded to know who did it, he didn't deny it, and he didn't grovel. He pointed at the one idol left standing and said, in effect, ask him. If he can talk, he'll tell you. That's not the answer of a man hoping to survive. That's the answer of someone who had already made peace with the cost of saying what he believed in a society where saying it out loud could get you killed. That's the part of the story we tend to skip because it's less comfortable than the fireworks. The real story isn't watch the miracle. It's watch what a person is willing to lose before the miracle ever shows up. Here's the reframe I want you to leave with. Even if you forget everything else, the miracle was never really the fire. Fire not burning him is the visible part, the part that makes the thumbnail. The actual miracle, the slower and far less flashy one, had already happened days or years earlier, inside Ibrahim's own mind, long before anyone lit a spark. Think about what it takes to reach the point where you can stand in front of an entire civilization's belief system, alone, with zero political power, and calmly dismantle it with a single question. Not an army, not a rebellion. Just logic, built patiently, questioning the stars, then the moon, then the sun, watching each one rise and inevitably disappear, and concluding that nothing which sets, which fades, which depends on the clock, deserves to be worshipped as eternal. That process took real time. The bravery on the catapult was just the final installment on a debt of conviction he'd already been paying down, doubt by doubt, for years. That's the part of faith almost nobody talks about, how much of it gets built quietly, long before the moment it's ever tested in public. So let's walk through how this moment actually came to exist, because the mechanics matter more than the highlight reel. Ibrahim, peace be upon him, grew up in a city built around idol worship. By some accounts, even his own father's trade was carving the very idols the city bowed to. Historians of the era describe a civilization organized in layers of unquestioned authority. Idols answered to priests, priests answered to the king, and the king answered to no one, not even to the idea of a power above him. 3 things kept that system standing: fear of social punishment, habit passed down without examination, and the plain comfort of never being the one who asks the inconvenient question. Ibrahim challenged all three, roughly in that order. First, he questioned gently, asking his father and his people why they worshipped objects that couldn't see, hear, or respond to anything. Then he questioned the cosmic order itself, in the well-known moment where he looks at a star, then the moon, then the sun, each time saying, "This must be my Lord," and each time watching it set and vanish, until he concludes none of them can be it. Something that disappears cannot be the one thing meant to be constant. When persuasion moved no one, he escalated to action. He waited until the city emptied out for a festival, walked into the temple, and took an axe to every idol but one. That's not a breakdown. That's a plan with a specific design. Leave the biggest idol standing, on purpose, axe hanging from its neck, so that when the people returned and demanded answers, the absurdity of their own belief system would be sitting right in front of them, impossible to avoid. Ask him if he can speak. It's one of the driest, most devastating comebacks in religious history, and it isn't an insult. It's a demonstration. He wasn't mocking his people. He was handing them a mirror. The king of that era, remembered in tradition as Nimrod, didn't take the demonstration well. And here's the second thing worth naming. Nimrod wasn't only angry about broken statues. He understood, correctly, that Ibrahim's real target was the entire architecture of unquestioned power the idols existed to protect. If the idols could be shown powerless, the king's own claim to being untouchable collapsed right alongside them. That's why the punishment had to be public, had to be enormous. A spectacle no one in that city would ever forget. It was never really about Ibrahim. It was a message to everyone else in the crowd. This is what happens if you start asking his questions too. So they built the fire. Tradition describes an undertaking that took days. Firewood gathered from across the region, stacked and burned until the heat became too extreme for anyone to approach, which is exactly why the catapult was necessary in the first place, to hurl Ibrahim in from a distance, because getting close enough to throw him by hand would have killed the executioner too. Here's a detail worth sitting with. As Ibrahim, peace be upon him, was being lifted toward the catapult, it's narrated that the angel Jibril came to him and asked directly if there was anything he needed. And Ibrahim's answer, as it's remembered, wasn't fear, and it wasn't gratitude aimed at the angel standing in front of him. It was closer to, "Not from you." Not, "I don't need help," but "I don't need it from any source other than the one I've already placed my trust in." He wasn't rejecting an offer. He was making sure that whatever happened next could be credited to no one but the one he'd built his entire life's argument around. Then they released him. And the flames, by every account passed down through the generations, simply did not touch him. Not his skin, not his clothes. He walked out, once the fire eventually burned low enough for anyone to approach, completely unharmed, while the crowd that had gathered to watch him die stood in absolute silence, trying to process what their own eyes were telling them. Notice the detail the highlight reel version always skips. The fire didn't stop being fire. It didn't lose its heat everywhere. It only refused to harm one man